Again, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Linda Lee, and I'm so thrilled and honored to be here with my friends, classmates, colleagues, Tracey, Elias, and Destiny. And of course, a big shout out to Dr. Miyake Trap, who sent us this proposal that we should apply to the call for proposal. And our session is titled Harnessing the Potential of AI in Diverse Classrooms, a practical approach for educators. So without further ado, if we can go to the next slide, I'm just going to pass it to Tracey and we'll just popcorn and introduce ourselves real quick.
Hello, my name is Tracey Jackson. I am a creative director. I am so excited about education, and I am a doctoral student. And I just want to say my team is absolutely fabulous. And thank you so much, Dr. Miyake Trap, for mentoring us. And, she's the reason why we're here today. Thank you. I'll pass it to my colleague.
Hi, everyone. I am Destiny Okonkwo, IT project manager, content creator, and doctoral student as well at Pepperdine. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm really grateful for my colleagues and especially Dr. MT. Thank you all. And I'll pass it over to Elias.
Hi, everyone. I am also a doctoral student at Pepperdine. My name is Elias. I'm an instructional designer at GSCP, and I am just as blessed as everyone to be here, and always have to give the shout out to my mentor, Dr. Miyake Trap, who is the reason we're here.
Yeah, and we got to give a shout out to Adia King from Pepperdine also.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for the support and showing up. We really appreciate your time. My name is Linda Lee, and I'm an instructional designer at Pepperdine also, as Elias. And we come from we have different backgrounds and experiences. However, one thing that ties us together is that we're all doctoral students in learning technologies at Pepperdine. So this conference and this presentation is very meaningful to us. Mm-hmm. And next slide, thank you. So I know you had a full day of conference so far in the morning, and some of you very early morning. So if you can take out your phone if you're able to and scan the Mentimeter, just to get a sense of how your day has been going, and just to see how do you feel about artificial intelligence after your all day of learning and hearing from different presenters, and how do you feel about using AI? And if you're not able to use that Mentimeter, we'll drop the question in the chat, and feel free to chime in the chat also, just your general sense of how your day is going and how you feel about using AI. And if you can, we can get like a thumbs up. I see some excited. Excited is the biggest word on the Mentimeter. So I'm really excited to hear that also. And we'll give it just like maybe curious. I see overwhelmed. And just the nature of this conference, I see, invigorated, optimistic, a little bit hesitant and apprehensive, completely understandable. And we'll just keep this Mentimeter going. And again, you're welcome to participate through the chat if you're not able to access the Mentimeter. So I'm really excited to see that. Excited is the biggest word. And it's staying the biggest word. So we'll keep going. And thank you, Elias, for moving the slides along for us. So one thing that really, grounds our presentation, and something that really we feel strongly about, is a sense of belonging. And this quote from our one of the papers that we are reading is belonging in online learning. The need for belonging is one of the most important needs of all students to function well in all different types of learning environments. So all of us are currently enrolled in a hybrid degree program where we have in-person and online portions. And I'm just going to drop that paper that we read in the chat to share. And here, it really emphasizes the importance of tutor to kind of create and foster that sense of belonging. And what they mean by a tutor is any kind of staff member or faculty or instructional support appointed to support the creative planning of a course before learning activities commence. So how are these things facilitated, and how are, you know, the sense of belonging for students enhanced? So I think all of us, we have, you know, as doctoral student, we have about at least 15 years of school experience, and we've gotten really good at nodding and participating and acting like, you know, we're on top of everything. And even when sometimes we feel like we don't belong or we don't understand. So we were discussing how can we present that, you know, us as diverse learners and with diverse backgrounds, how we can only speak to our own stories. So we wanted to share individually about our own stories and perspectives of how we're harnessing the potential of AI to enhance our own sense of belonging in the classroom. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. And Elias is going to speak on his perspective first.
Yes, thank you, Linda. I'm going to stop the share for a little bit before I get to this video so I can see everybody. So I want to talk a little bit about my experience as a first-generation college student and how AI could have supported me a lot in that journey. So I was born in Lebanon. I came here when I was a month old. My parents fled the war so that we can have a better life here. And we grew up in the San Gabriel, Pasadena area. And as I was going through the motion, going through the high school and going through college, thank you for the heart, Kristen, my sister, who's a year older than me, really helped pave the way as kind of putting a roadmap on how to get to college. But when I got to college, there was a lot of information that I had no idea of what words meant. When I was applying for financial aid, you know, what was a subsidized versus unsubsidized loan? Why was Sally Mae calling me? I hung up multiple times because I thought it was a prank call. I was like, I don't know who Sally Mae is and why are they asking me for thousands of dollars? And aside from navigating financial aid, navigating career development resources, there was an article published in March 9th of 2023 from Harvard Social Impact Review saying AI has the capability to help first-generation students in education navigate these challenging topics that and very diverse areas such as admissions, IT, and for me personally, financial aid, all these topics that sort of intertwine that, you know, I never knew, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't even have the language to ask. And when I would try to ask, I would get very self-conscious and I would get some responses as, Elias, how do you not know that? Or you weren't taught that? The answer was no, I didn't. And as soon as I would hear those words, I would shut down. So we were talking about this with our group on how AI can really help students navigate those very challenging circumstances. One of them being, for example, one we've all heard of is ChatGPT. There's a piece to it that I want to highlight that Tracey shared in our group conversation that it's very private. I can have a one-on-one conversation with ChatGPT and ask these questions that I've been yearning and to have a desire to ask without the fear of judgment, without feeling embarrassed or shame, and say, hey, what does subsidized loan mean? Who is Sally Mae? What does she want to do with me? Like all these questions I'm too scared to ask. And I'm blessed that I have a mentor that I can ask these questions now without fear of that shame or judgment. But growing up and my parents having not gone to college, the high school education, we didn't know how to navigate these scenarios. So another one, and I'm going to share my screen to go to the video, is another personal story is when I was a teacher and I worked at Disney. I was trying to leave the field and I was looking for a lot of jobs that I can go. And one of them was an internship with a Disney HR. And it was a business HR recruiting thing. And one of the job descriptions said, proficient with Excel, must know how to use pivot tables. No idea what a pivot table was. I barely used Excel before because it was never required, was never taught it. So I Googled everything I could about pivot tables. I remember asking a friend who kind of shamed me for asking what a pivot table was and was using language I had no idea how to interpret. So a great way for AI to kind of bridge these gaps is how do we integrate like ChatGPT into Excel, a tool I wish I had at that moment. I won't play the whole video because it's very long and I'm going to skip a little bit through it. But you can see how there is a tool now where you can add AI into your Excel and they'll explain a lot of these capabilities, these tools, all these features for you. and support you in that process. And I think as a first generation college student, this is so incredibly helpful because that unbiased and kind of shame-free environment would have, for me personally, been very helpful. So there are a lot of great tools. This is just one of many that can be integrated into Excel or whatever program that, you know, students can use or people can just use in general. And with that, I don't want to take up too much time, so I'm going to pass it over now to my lovely colleagues, and thank you all.
Hello. So Elias was talking about not knowing what we don't know is sometimes paralyzing. So doctoral students were faced with so many challenges, including complex research, language barriers, unfamiliar academic conventions. Along with this, you feel isolated. You have a lot of self-doubt. And as a doctoral student, you begin to see the world as like landmines and hurdles that you have to just jump. But there is aid, AI, ChatGPT in particular. You know, it is an advanced language model, and it presents such exciting possibilities to overcoming these challenges with technological affordances, human-like responses that can generate empathy, akin to empathy, and then cultural affordances, having a nuanced understanding in the way that we speak and communicate with one another. And it can assist doctoral students in navigating these barriers while igniting self-directed learning facilitated by technology. I think Malcolm Knowles would be fascinated and excited by these times. So like for me, when I became a doctoral student, even today, a simple email was terrifying. You don't know who you're speaking to. This could be your future chair or that recommendation of a lifetime. And we all know what we're here for, right? We're here to build community, and we're here to connect and to further ideas. And when this is threatened by the unknown, you become insecure. And AI can help in simple things. It could 10x jump you from what you knew before to after. So here, take a simple email. Next slide. A simple email by an enthusiastic new doctoral student. Hello, professor. I am excited about conferences. I have some really great ideas about equity, AI, education, and a host of other things. Can you help me decide on a conference? Well, it's grammatically correct. It's clear. But is it appropriate? Is it scholarly? Are you making the impression that you want to make? Is it too informal for the professor that you want to essentially impress? So let's ask our AI friend for suggestions. Next slide.
Professor, last name. I hope this email finds you well. As a first-year doctoral student in your field of study, I am reaching out to seek your guidance and recommendations regarding upcoming conferences that align with my research interests. I am particularly enthusiastic about exploring the intersection of equity, artificial intelligence, and education. Through my preliminary research and engagement with relevant literature, I have gained valuable insights and developed a strong passion for these areas. Attending conferences in this domain would undoubtedly enhance my knowledge and contribute to my professional growth.
We could stop it here, Linda, if you don't mind. You may not use any of that. And you may use some of it. But what you have here is a guide. You have a standard. You have a prompt for future correspondence. You can walk into the world with confidence and a sense of belonging. It's like going to a ball and you have the appropriate clothes on now. I mean, simple emails can paralyze you and stop you from going to the next level, because now you've sent that email and you've moved your future further. So I will pass this to my colleague, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Tracey. In addition to demystifying AI by using it as a guidance tool, AI tools can also be used in DEI frameworks that are existent in educational spaces. So McKinsey and Company defines diversity, equity, and inclusion as primary pillars to foster environments that make people feel supported and included, regardless of their race, ethnicity, religion, economic status, gender, and abilities. With these various parts of DEI, there is a sensitivity that must be taken with utilizing AI. But however, it is vital to educators and education in general that students and educators use AI in the realm of DEI frameworks. Next slide. There are ways AI can support DEI initiatives, campaigns, and sustain baselines within higher education. Firstly, AI can scan syllabi, instructional materials, rubrics, and overall class format for potentially biased language using a tool like ChatGPT, as my colleagues have pointed out. This will sustain inclusivity, speaking to the diverse backgrounds that may be present in higher education spaces. AI can also be a cost-effective complementary tool. For example, using AI as a tool to provide informal guidance to render DEI training in order to prepare and sustain educators, staff, and students in best practices for a diverse population. We want to also throw out there the considerations that should be made when it comes to the cost of AI tools and its impact on equity for users to have equal access to AI tools regardless of their economic status. Finally, AI can serve as a translation tool for educators, especially for someone like me. I was born in America, but I have a Nigerian background and grew up in Nigeria as well. So specifically in classroom spaces, when hearing from teachers can use AI tools as a way to speak to me and for me to receive information in a way that's applicable for my background and also applicable for their possible diverse background. With a tool like Adobe Stock AI Generator, educators can also have the ability to illustrate diverse visuals while teaching courses like anatomy or criminal justice, where using diverse illustrations to communicate the experiences and existence of variations with each subject matter is very important. So AI can be a valuable tool in higher education DEI frameworks, and I'm super excited to see how we can implement some of these tools to really foster a space for everyone. I'll pass it back to Linda for the conclusion.
Thank you so much. So I loved how we were able to speak to some of our own experiences and ways to really demystify some of the things in higher education and different types of educational setting. For me, as an instructional designer and a student in the program, I kind of have experience as receiving some of the assignments and instructions, and I have experience sometimes creating these instructions for the students. So I have really, sometimes, you know, we're a Google campus, so some of these assumed knowledges that we have, you know, sometimes the faculty might, you know, with the best intentions and, you know, to help the students say, hey, use the Google Drive and use Google Docs to collaborate with your classmates, you know, and everybody's nodding. And actually that tool that's used to collaborate might be the barrier for some of the students. So whether it's, and, you know, it's not really up to the students to carry the burden of like teaching the others as well, but a simple prompt that you can add to generative AI or ChatGPT saying like, how can I, you know, teach a novice how to, like first time user, you know, to share a Google Doc or collaborate on this document. And the way that it, what's the word, adapts to different user experience level, it'll have, depending on like how you prompt it, it'll give you ideas for sharing the document with a novice user versus, you know, how to use Google Doc to its fullest capacity. So I think it really caters to the user's experience as well. And I see a lot of chat coming in. Thank you for the participation. If you have any best use cases before we go to Q&A for, if you've seen examples of how AI was best used or ChatGPT was best used, and if you've seen students or faculty use it in creative ways, feel free to drop that in the chat. We would love to get some more ideas on how we can use this tool to really elevate the game and promote inclusion in the realm of education. And thank you for listening in. If you have any, we can open up for Q&A if you have any questions. And while we're waiting for questions, I saw Dr. Ortiz's photo come in, and thank you so much for all the wonderful communication that you sent to all the presenters and participants. I really appreciate, she's the reason why we have this beautiful Zoom background. So shout out to Dr. Ortiz.
I have a question. I'm particularly fascinated by the connection between using AI to create more inclusive spaces. In this case, you're talking about in the higher education context. And Destiny, you gave some great examples that we often take for granted, teaching an anatomy class and having bodies of all types, of all skin colors, of all genders, of all everything. I am wondering if you all could share some additional examples of ways in which the use of AI can provide additional resources, options, materials that can create more inclusive spaces that represent all of us. I mean, I'm just looking at everybody's thumbnail pictures right now on this screen. All of us deserve to be represented in the curriculum, in materials, on PowerPoint slides, etc. So what other examples can you think of that might spark our interest or reinvigorate our commitment to creating inclusive spaces that are representative of all of our possibilities?
A lot of the technological affordances, for instance, when I think I brought up the nuanced languages. So for instance, you'll have variations of how we speak, and so in certain spaces you can feel very insecure, because coming from the high desert, I had grandparents who said stuff like fitna, or just the way I learned how to speak in many spaces, I would come in feeling very insecure. So you could use ChatGPT or any other advanced language model and practice and learn what to say, and write your script and rehearse. And then you'll feel more comfortable and you'll feel included. And I don't know if I answered the question correctly, but that's kind of, I think that's powerful. It seems simple, but it really makes a difference, going out into the world and feeling included.
Yeah, I want to add on to that, Tracey. There's a tool that I found called Cogni, and it can be used in educational spaces in various ways. But one of the things that it does is that it provides like translation as well for languages. So if a student who's coming from a different country into the United States to probably go to school, and this is my experience, and not really understanding the nuances of the English language, because my first language was Igbo. This tool helps the user to type in their language and say words in their actual language via the chat bot, and then the teacher can actually read in English. So that kills off that barrier where the student may need help in a specific subject, but doesn't even know how to ask for help in a language that's understandable to the teacher. So it kind of ties back to my initial point, where it's like the teacher can use AI to better communicate with the student, and the student can use AI to better communicate with the teacher. So that's another example of a tool, an AI tool that fosters that environment where the student doesn't feel so alienated or separated from their reality in a new space. Yeah.
And if I can also jump in, one thing that I'm always very passionate about is how do we give students, especially like first generation students or students from underrepresented minorities, how we give them the language to even begin taking on task. One thing that there's an article from an organization called Beyond College Access, and they talk about how AI can offer an inclusive space for networking. And college is such a critical part of when you can network and establish that network for you. But how do I even begin networking? How do I begin developing a resume or a cover letter? What does that even mean? At Pepperdine, at GSCP, our career services director is looking at all AI tools, like automatic resume builders, such as, I took a list of some of them, like Teal HQ, Resi, and they help students even just develop a resume. ChatGPT works with this as well. But there's a lot of AI platforms out there that help students build up their application. What does a portfolio look like? So we can create that inclusive space and, get them on the same starting ground and ask those questions to at least know where to begin.
Adia, I see your hand up.
Hi guys. Yeah, can everyone hear me? Okay, yeah. I just there was a workshop earlier in the day that gave an example of something that really resonated with me. It's a little bit on the flip side of what you guys are talking about in ChatGPT being able to translate or just sort of create an even playing field between teacher and student. I also, one of the other workshops talked about asking ChatGPT to explain a concept the way that Snoop Dogg would, something along those lines. And it resonated with me because I think something that happens in education is we all have this imposter syndrome where we think we should understand things, even if there aren't things like a language barrier or a culture barrier. Sometimes it's we just don't get it because it doesn't resonate with the perspective that we already have. And so ChatGPT offers this extra layer of competency where you can be explain Brexit in video game terms, or just you can help connect it with something that you already feel really comfortable with. And even if it doesn't help to further your understanding, sometimes it helps to invigorate you or just make you excited about a topic because you understand it from a perspective of something that's fun for you. So I thought that was a really interesting example that I wanted to share with the group.
That was wonderful.
Really good, really good.
I was also going to ask, and I don't know if everybody was in for Dr. Crompton's keynote, but she also talked about, the bias that comes along with it, right? Because these are generative softwares and things along those lines. And so as I was listening to you guys talk, I don't know if you guys have seen any research or anything, but I would imagine the more that you are doing inclusive or checking things for diversity and things along those lines, it also helps build up to make ChatGPT more inclusive. Have you guys found that in your research at all, or any information about that?
We haven't looked deeply into the research into the bias detection things, but we did discuss how more AI tools, including ChatGPT, are working on things like bias detection, let's say in syllabi, or when people upload more things. And of course, these are generated so by users adding more information. So I'm really interested to see more research into where this is going in terms of ethically and what type of bias it may be perpetuating. And those are the things that, we as students and researchers and practitioners, I think, are responsible to look into further and examine. But thank you so much for bringing that up.
It's so interesting. Thank you guys for sharing everything that you have and all the work you've done so far. I've just been sitting here in awe. I'm having such a great time. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions that we have out there?
I just want to make a comment that when I was when I was starting school, I'm a first generation person coming as well. And my kids, they experience things that I didn't experience. And not just with just AI, but with life in general, that when you are presented with something, not unless you experience it, can you fully feel how it makes you feel. It makes you feel a certain kind of way. And I would just say, be a representative and not a statistic, because you can change people in, perspective by being a representative, and a positive one. And so I wish that I had some of these tools back then that AI can present, as far as, the professional language that you can use in your cover letters, your resumes, all that stuff, because I was struggling. I can have to tell you, I struggled back then, because the way that I would speak was not professional. It was ghetto fabulous in some kind of ways. But anyway, in any case, but to go on and just say that, I'm learning so much, and I appreciate all you all that are here joining, and for the presenters for sharing everything that you have.
Thank you so much for that, because that is true. You want to fit in, and it seems we a lot of times we focus on foreign students that are coming in, but sometimes if you're feeling ghetto fabulous, I oftentimes do, you feel like a foreigner. You're walking in and you're like, am I going to be judged by my I'm going to say my specialness? You know what I mean? So yes, these tools, you can walk in and put your shirt on and feel good, proverbially, So thank you for that. That is exactly what we were trying to convey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, I was going to jump in real quick. Tracey, you did such a great job introducing all of you guys that you took care of my job for me at the beginning of our session. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dara Anderson. I'm a member of the ADEIL board. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you to our presenters. I'm not so far out of being a doctoral student myself. I feel your pain, but also feel your excitement. And I think you guys did a really good job on this presentation. I need to do a shameless plug. I just want to make sure that we thank our sponsor, Noodle, and our host, Old Dominion University, for today. Without them, our event would not be possible. I did drop a link in the chat to do the conference evaluation. I'm going to drop that again because of all the great questions. It kind of rolled up to the top. So there it is again. But thank you all. And if there's any other conversation, I think we've got about 10 or 12 minutes before the next session comes up. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
You guys are amazing. Do you know that? Like, you seriously, you need to know that. Like, what you just did, like you gave insight to change lives. And that's like such a huge deal because you owned your identities. You owned where you came from. You owned, what you wish you had, and you committed to using technology in a positive way to fill that gap for the future. And I this is why we get education, right? Like, this is why we get technology, to pay it forward and to give those opportunities. And I could tell by the chat that you all were doing that. And I'm just so proud of you. Like, so proud is the wrong word. I'm just honored to watch y'all do this, because you're changing lives. You're using technology and your education and this platform for the right reasons to move the world forward, and access and relevancy. And and voice and inclusion, like all the things is what you're doing. And it's not just like a stamp or something you signed. It's like putting it into practice. And y'all are amazing.
Oh, Professor, you're making me emotional. Thank you so much. It means everything coming from you. Thank you.
Well, the thing is, Tracey, I received that, but it's going to mean the most coming from the people who are hearing and who are now going to be using these tools to hopefully get into these same spaces, because we shouldn't have the barriers. So that is going to be your true measure, not my words, but the access that you're going to be providing by spreading this. That is going to be the why. So I'm just so proud of y'all.
And I have to say, Linda, Tom Brady'd all of this. So yes, thank you, Linda, so much. You are amazing, Linda.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited for us. And I invited Destiny back on Zoom so we can take a screenshot of us. Can we all smile and take a group screenshot? Okay, ready? Oh, no, where did Dr. Anderson go? If you don't mind being the picture, let's do. Okay, perfect. 1, 2, smile. Thank you. And do I have everyone's permission to upload the screenshot? Okay. Thank you.
Is my angle good though? Sorry.
Oh, girl, you're always good. Stop it. Stop it.
This was a blast, and I know it's Tracey and Destiny's first presentation. Is this right?
I know, it's so scary. Oh my gosh.
You did so well.
Y'all are old pros. What do you mean? First presentation. I would have never believed that.
Dr. Anderson, thank you.
Oh, fabulous.
To death.
That was
You belong.
Exactly. Well said.
Thank you, Dr. MT.
Thank you for sharing this call for proposal, Dr. Miyake Trap, and thank you, Dr. Anderson, for being here and facilitating. And this is such a huge honor and opportunity for us. And
so I have a quick story I can tell you guys real quick that is about ADEIL. In 2018, I had picked a dissertation topic and kind of a direction. And my focus of study was the community of inquiry model and how the teaching presence component of that theory impacted student satisfaction in the classroom from the online perspective. And the ADEIL conference was at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And I actually had a mentor who asked me to present with her. So we got to go to the conference and go to Wisconsin and be on that campus, which is beautiful if you ever get the chance. And the keynote speaker, this was like fangirl moment, right? The keynote speaker is the guy who is the father of the community of inquiry model. And I got to listen to him. The guy I had been citing for months in my lit review is now sitting at the front of the room during the keynote. Ridiculous. But then to even be more exciting, the next day, somebody ended up not being able to attend to do their presentation. So he was like, well, I'll come and hang out and we can just kind of visit and chat. I got to sit and talk to this guy for over an hour about my dissertation topic. So this is a wonderful organization and it's such a great place to get to present. So I'm so glad that this was one of a couple of you's first opportunities, but y'all did a really, really good job. I'm glad y'all got to come today. So.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that story. I mean, it makes you want to go out and do more because you want an experience like that. That is great.
It's pretty crazy.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah. So maybe that'll give you a little inspiration those nights whenever you're still writing and trying to figure out how in the world you're ever going to finish this thing. Just keep going. That's the best advice I can ever give anybody. Just don't stop. So
Amazing.
Thank you.
Well,
so
probably
much.
Dr. Anderson and Karen Recorder too, and Daryl ODU Tech Supervisor need to get to their next session. So we could take our love party somewhere else. Dr. Anderson, thank you for creating this space for them. Every piece of creating opportunity is never taken for granted. It's
true.
intentional. So thank you.
Yes. Happy to have been part of it and got to see you guys present. So y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.